today's video, we share important financial news from Iraq, Vietnam, Zimbabwe, plus we'll learn about the world's first Bitcoin community. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi guys, Sandy Ingram here. Welcome to the Education Matrix channel, where we provide news updates surrounding exotic currencies, mostly the Iraqi dinar, the Malaysian ringgit, the Vietnam dong, and the Zimbabwe dollar. There are 7 basic factors that control any country's foreign currency rate. We share news surrounding these factors. Starting with Iraq, in this article, we learned that Iraq is considering nuclear energy. The links to all of these articles are in the description. Next, we learned that Iraq may turn to China to buy off Exxon shares in the oil fields in West Kurna. ExxonMobil wants to sell 32.7% of its shares because of a $70 billion debt that was accumulated in 2020. Barsar reports that crude oil exports averaged 2.7 million barrels per day. This is good news, really good news. This could be a sign of what is to come as drought spreads across the continent. Regardless if you call it drought or climate change, you have to ask yourself, is this what we can expect in the future? There's no rain. Climate change threatens Iraq's Bedouins. Bedouins are nomadic people who inhabit the Middle East and the North African desert areas. In fact, they live in the desert and are called desert dwellers.
Spring has arrived in the deserts of Iraq's southern Muthanna province. April is a time when the sandy soil should turn into grazing land to allow livestock to gain weight ahead of the scorching summer heat. Instead, camels must make do with scattered patches of scruffy grass. Climate change is eroding the sustenance of these animals, spelling an existential crisis for the nomadic tribes who depend on them.
There is no rain and the land is dry. The grass has turned into desert. We have to sell some animals to buy food for the rest. This is what life has become.
During our visit, clouds gathered in what some hoped would be the first proper downpour this year, but only a few drops trickled from the sky, barely enough to wet the ground. There has been very little precipitation this year, and when it does rain, it's only for a few minutes, which is not enough to transform this desert into pastures for the livestock to feed on.
Moving on to international banking. Here we learned that this small Caribbean paradise is set to be home to the world's first fully Bitcoin-enabled community. For a long time, I could not understand how banks could be so powerful in the world. I read the documented, educated information, but it wasn't until I saw this article that I truly understood the core of how banks get international power. Eurobanks breaks 22-year lending drought to Zimbabwe and grants a credit line to a private firm. Just think about that. When all the banks say no to a country's growth, that country is headed for failure. The banks are doing to economies what countries are doing to other countries. They are putting sanctions into place. Moving on to Vietnam. In this article, we learned that Finland wants to invest in highways, thermal power, energy, and waste treatment projects in the southern province of Dong. You should also know that investors from 45 other countries and territories worldwide have already funded 1,533 projects in Vietnam. Now moving back to Zimbabwe, April's inflation the lowest in nearly 2 years.